The Gaza National Bank was destroyed by an Israeli airstrike on Sunday as fighting continues in Israel and Gaza. More than 700 Israelis have been confirmed dead, and 560 Palestinians have been killed after Hamas, a militant group from Gaza, launched an unprecedented attack on Israel over the weekend. Hamas worked with Iranian security officials to plan the attack, according to senior members of Hamas and Hezbollah, another Iran-backed militant group. Western leaders have denounced Saturday's assault and offered support to Israel.
I've just spoken with Prime Minister Netanyahu to assure him of the UK's steadfast support as Israel defends itself against these appalling attacks.
Iranian security officials helped Hamas plan the surprise attack on Israel, senior members of Hamas and Hezbollah said. The green light for the attack, which included air, land, and sea incursions, was given at a meeting in Beirut last week. A spokesman for Iran's mission to the UN said Iran stood in support of Gaza's actions, but didn't direct them.
Hamas is considered a proxy group of Iran. The exact nature of how much Hamas is being led by Iran has always been unclear. But of course, they receive a lot of their funding from Iran, a lot of their training from Iran, and a lot of their weapons from Iran. And that is according to Israeli officials here in Israel.
The planning for the operation began in August, according to senior members of Hamas and Hezbollah. The direct Iranian involvement could raise the risk of a broader conflict in the Middle East. U.S. officials say they haven't seen evidence of Tehran's involvement.
There's a long relationship between Iran and Hamas. In fact, Hamas wouldn't be around in the way that it is without the support that it's received from Iran over the years. In this specific instance, we have not yet seen evidence that Iran directed or was behind this particular attack.
Social media platforms have been flooded with numerous videos and images showing what seems to be Hamas militants entering Israel. The concerning situation occurred after several rocket attacks were carried out from the Gaza Strip towards Israeli land. The Islamist group Hamas initiated a major attack on Israel on Saturday, which was occupied by armed individuals crossing the Israeli border. Footage shared on multiple social media platforms depicts people wearing camouflage clothes, holding guns, and seemingly crossing into Israeli territory through the border fence. In addition to that, videos on social media display Hamas militants pulling the corpses of various Israeli soldiers onto the streets as a form of celebration. A video clip depicting a member of Hamas entering Israel by using a motorized hang glider is going viral on social media. The pictures have made people anxious and worried about the possibility of armed conflicts and violent incidents. The sound of sirens was heard in several Israeli cities on the Jewish holiday of Simchat Torah when the Iron Dome missile defense system successfully stopped many rockets. This caused people living there to quickly seek shelter. Unfortunately, a woman in her 60s lost her life in the southern Gederot area when a rocket directly hit her. In a speech that had been recorded before, militant leader Mohammad Daif of Hamas proclaimed they would bring an end to the current situation with the help of God. Their goal is to make the enemy realize that they can no longer act recklessly without facing consequences. They have announced Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, with the first strike already exceeding 5,000 missiles and shells within the initial 20 minutes.
All right, everybody, welcome to another Wednesday Night Live. I'm on with Big Ruben today. We're going to be discussing the Israeli situation as well as some of the current goings-on regarding parents' rights in our fight for our kids. So, Ruben, welcome on. Good to have you back.
How are you, George? Nice to see you. Sorry I didn't shave for the situation.
That's all right. We wanted it as natural as possible. We're 100% real deal here. All right, so folks, don't forget
one of the benefits from working home, you don't have to shave.
Yeah. I work from home, but I still have to shave. So, well, sometimes I can let it go. It depends. But a lot of video conferencing and stuff. But folks, don't forget to comment on where you're watching from. Definitely want to hear that. We may even talk a little bit about in the parents piece that whole Canadian thing that's still going on. I don't know if you're aware, Rube, well, I want to say convoy by nature, but I keep being reminded that it's not really a convoy, but it's a large gathering that's slowly growing in Canada, much to the same as the Million March that they did with about children. They want Trudeau, um, Trudeau for treason, I think the saying is. So maybe we'll get into that in a little bit. But regarding Israel, man, I mean, when this first happened, people were sending me clips like crazy, and I was out with my kids, and I had no idea what the hell they were sending me, and I'm like, I'm seeing all this stuff, and I'm like, in my head, this sounds terrible, but in my head, I'm like, I almost disregarded it because I was like, oh, it's just more, even though it's death and carnage and horrific, actions on Hamas's part, as always. I mean, they always go for the lowest possible road. But I almost was desensitized to the whole Hamas and Israel thing, just because it's been going on for so long that I don't. I mean, even with the peace negotiations Trump was working out, it still didn't really reflect Hamas and Hezbollah and those like really freaking loopy organizations that are just hell bent on the destruction of Israel.
Destroying Israel.
Yeah. I mean, and then they're like, oh, but Iran is backing them. It looks like. I'm like, and that's again always the case. Like it's like, to me, when I first heard it. Now, obviously, it's gone. As I got into it, and sort of because I was getting so many videos sent to me that I was just like, what the hell? Clearly, there's something unique about what's going on now. And when I got the full scope of how Hamas did it, I mean, I
Oh,
put some of it in the
incredible.
ticker there. I don't know if you were getting audio on that ticker that I did, but they were using hand glide, like motorized hand gliders to breach the border. Like, that's crazy. I mean, it's incredibly primitive, but it's just at the same time, I think the one thing that shocked me was how unprepared Israel was. I'm like,
That's what's really weird. What's really weird is that nobody saw any of this coming. I mean, Israel has one of the best, I guess, their version of the CIA or Secret Service that's around, and for them to just not know this was coming at all. The United States intelligence didn't hear any whispers. How much money have we spent on? They tell us they're tracking terrorism all over the world, and they can hear this, they can hear this, and nobody heard a thing, not one thing. I mean, they paratroop into a concert or into a rave, for
I
crying
feel like
out
it's
loud.
almost like a 9/11 situation where, there were chirps about it beforehand, but they got disregarded because they were just too wild and too like, people had heard about it. Like, everyone went back in hindsight and were kind of like, and I know I'm going to get a ton of people now with the whole conspiracy for 9/11, but they went back and kind of looked, well, wait, there was chatter about this. They did have, but they didn't regard it. And it's like, in the moment, if something sounds that wild, yeah, it's on your radar, but so are like 9,000 other things. And like, which one is actually going to happen? Sometimes I think, you know, it's like you only have to be wrong once. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could
But
be right
even
1,000 times.
don't they have that dome, the Iron Dome or whatever they call
They
it,
do, but
the
that's what
Star
but
Wars,
I
and
think
even
that's
that
where the
didn't
hang
even
gliders,
go off.
but I think that's where
But
the
they were
hang
getting
gliders
bombed
come in.
too. They were getting shelled as well, weren't they? And
Well, no, they were. I don't know which came first, the hang gliders or the missiles, but like
chicken
I
or
would
the
I
egg.
would guess it was the hang gliders. Like I would guess they came in quietly and probably showed up like birds or something on radar, or too small to be a plane kind of thing, and just and plus they're flying low, and like you really
It's
would have to see them in order like.
literally the plot of every Star Wars cartoon.
But I mean, it's pretty wild, and I'm getting a lot of people asking me, like, do you think this is a part of the bigger picture that's going on globally right now? And I personally, I can't dismiss that possibility. I mean, when I looked at this on a global scale, the first thing that occurred to me was, all right, Iran is always backing these guys. So I know, like, it's one of those deals where the US is saying, we don't have any evidence of this. But like everybody knows that it's been happening for so long. Like it's not like the eye is off Iran right now. But like at the same time,
Well, wait till they start recovering the weapons, and we find out half of them came from either Ukraine or Afghanistan. That's when it'll really hit the
well,
fan.
they already said that a large amount of the weaponry had come from Afghanistan, from the weapons that were
Yeah.
left behind in Afghanistan, which you knew was going to happen. I mean, you knew that was going to happen. Let me get to Brian Sean here. McCall over on Facebook says Israel has the Israel has the tightest security in the world. So you got to ask yourself, how did this happen? Yeah, simple answers are usually the correct answers. It was allowed to happen. That's very possible too. I don't know how much Israel is involved. They got enough of their own problems. Like I don't see them aligning with the WEF, I guess, is what I would say. Which in turn, to me anyway, if you watch the broadcast, I'm convinced until someone proves different, in the world of conjecture, that the CCP is pulling the strings on the WEF. It's just everything that China does now is what the WEF wants to do, and I'm just like, there's no way that's a coincidence. You're talking about an organization that can basically tell the WHO, that something is true when it completely isn't, and the WHO will go and regurgitate that to the rest of the world, costing millions of lives or hundreds of thousands, whatever you want to say. With COVID, I think China's influence in the UN is too great to dispel that, and I think that honestly, they're wielding the arm of the WEF. I could be wrong, but I don't see Israel in that play with the WEF. I don't see them aligning with any of those major powers. To me, what the way I saw it, and again, anyone who has any opinion on this whatsoever, including the high level generals and everyone else, is all conjecture at this point. But like to me, the way it would fit into the global stage would be either Russia or Russia and China together, probably, incentivize this to split up American forces, munitions, and drain the United States as much as they can.
Well,
Like that's the way I saw it. And I could be wrong, but when you look at what the end result of this does, you've got us now, and we're not obligated to Israel per se by, in that sense, like we're not. It's not a situation where it's like, with Japan or NATO or, where you hit Israel, you got to fight us. But at the same time, we are kind of, all the allied powers really that created that state essentially, and I don't mean, created it above God or anything, but from World War II, from the spoils, we all know they created that country, and there was sort of an unwritten obligation to make sure it stays safe. Now, in essence, we have, I mean, right now Israel can go to war with pretty much the entire Middle East and win. I mean, from a balance of who's got the weaponry, who's got the muscle. It's not a lot of land, but they've got some serious munitions there. And
did I
and,
see they're
and
getting
defense.
attacked from the north now as well?
Yeah, and this has happened before, right? Like this has happened before, where the Arab nations tried to pull something like this, and it didn't end well for the Arab nations. And I would say this, getting back to the global piece, like, so if you look at us now, assuming let's just pretend, because we all know it's BS, but let's just pretend that Ukraine is more than just a money laundering operation. That they actually care about, everything. That like, Zelensky is actually just a good guy who's misunderstood, and and wants to save that nation. Pouring money, finance, armaments, everything into Ukraine, while simultaneously beginning to pour money, armaments, everything into Israel. I can't help but think, like, I always try to look for the one thing that nobody's looking at, and to me, like, Russia and China have been allied with Iran unofficially, but they've always had good relationships. Having this thing pop off, knowing the U.S. has got to respond in some way, splitting up our wasting our treasure and splitting up our forces leaves Taiwan wide open for China. Like
Ah.
that's how I see it. Like because it's always that thing that you're not looking at, right? It's always that thing that you're not looking at. And to me, if we're going to put this out to the global stage, my eyes are on Taiwan right now. Like I'm sitting back and waiting to see if China does anything funky towards Taiwan, because Taiwan we actually are obligated to go. And if we and now we've got these two that we're not going on, and we've got Ukraine. Like honestly, we should be stopping all funding. That whole thing should be done right now. And all we have to do is tell Ukraine publicly there's no shot of you ever getting into NATO, and that whole war ends anyway.
In a minute.
In a minute. It all ends right there. And the only one that called that out of all the friggin' of all the presidential candidates, the only one that actually called that out was Vivek. He's the only one. Trump's solution made me throw up in my mouth, and friggin' and DeSantis won't give enough detail to even give you an idea that he even has a plan. Not that I'd rather a bad one than no one, but to me, they're both the same thing. If you don't have a plan, that's a bad plan. And Trump with the whole, I'll tell them I'll give Ukraine more than they've ever got. That scared the living bejesus out of me. I don't know if you heard him say that. It was an interview he was doing on Fox. It might have been the one. No, I think it was.
Is that the one that was the same night as the first debate?
No, I think it was. It might have been the one before that, but it could have been. I getting my timeline a little twisted.
I don't.
He said a few things in this particular in this particular instance in that interview that kind of freaked me out about Ukraine. One of them was Zelensky's an honorable guy, and the reason he's an honorable guy is because he said the right things when he was questioned about Trump's phone call to him, and I was just like. And I'm just like, dude, like, I get it. Like, I get that the narcissism and I get all that. And I've been looking the other way forever. But you can't be going on the grand stage and saying Zelensky's an honorable guy under any context. Like, you just can't do it. The dude is a puppet leader. Everybody knows this. Everybody who pays attention to world politics knows this. And this whole, and then you turn around and say, what I would end this tomorrow, and what I would do is tell Zelensky, you got to make a deal, man. And he's like, again, great detail. But I wasn't upset about that. That's Trump. But then he says, I would tell Putin, you got to come to the table or I'm going to give them more than they've ever gotten, man. I'm going to give them. And I was just like, oh, my God, no. Like, don't even kid like that, But there we were. There we were. And but anyway, I don't want to make this about Trump. The point is, with these world events going on, like Ukraine could end tomorrow. Israel's a little more complicated, but Israel can handle their own business. It's not like Ukraine where we send them all this technology and they don't have no idea how to use it. Like half the stuff we sent there, they have no idea how to use. It's just, if it even showed up, it's just sitting there. I mean, it's a complete money laundering operation going on over there. Israel would not be a money laundering operation. That would be actual. They would have specific requests for tactical gear and things like they know what they need. Like their army is equipped to handle business. Like when they get their stuff, they're good. Like Israel's not saying we need American troops. Whereas Ukraine, I mean, like this war would have been over. If Putin wanted to just decimate Ukraine, it would have been over already. But they're enjoying this whole America dropping, like they're enjoying that. They love that whole scene. So because it's more treasure, more money, more deficit, more inflation. It's like you don't have to drop a bomb on the public. You can punish them financially by just tweaking these idiots and making them keep send money or making them continue this money laundering. Like because that money
isn't that
doesn't
how
go
we
to
beat
the ether.
Soviet Union in the first place?
It is. It's exactly how. It's exactly how. But look, we don't have smart people in government right now. Let's just face it, right? I don't know who's actually running it. Like, I don't know who's running the United States during this Biden administration. Clearly, I think even people who voted for Biden can understand at this point it ain't Joe Biden, right? Like people are like, oh, what would happen if Biden left and Kamala took over? That could be even worse. I'm like, no,
the same exact
nothing
thing.
would change.
Nothing would change except she would
absolutely
talk more.
Nothing would change. Which is why I look at Marjorie Taylor Greene and them with these impeachment efforts. I'm like, just stop it. It doesn't friggin' matter. Like it doesn't matter. It's all an exercise in futility. Bob over here says the missiles came first. So I think I commented. I thought it might have been the gliders. So thanks for that clarification. They came from Lebanon. So There's that Sadiq Alam. Don't you know what Israel did to the people of Palestine? First, they asked for land. Then their own people are trying to drive them out of the country. Don't you know this? Look,
Yeah.
here's what I know, Sadiq, or Sidq. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. My apologies. But here's what I know. This whole thing has been a mess from far longer than the 60s, or what is it, was it 40s, in the 40s? Yeah,
1947.
not 49, 47. So so it's been this whole problem has been around, I mean, obviously it heated up dramatically after that, but the killing that goes back and forth between Israel and the Palestinians is everyone could sit there and point to a moment where they're like, look, look at this, and the video propaganda that comes out of it is wild as well. I mean, as far as it's like, who came first, the chicken or the egg? Everybody's retaliating from something else, and it never ends. But this one was a straight up, this was pretty much. I mean, it was crafty. I got to give him a 10 on the original, on the originality sector. I mean, coming in there in hang gliders and such, that's pretty wild. But as far as who's right or wrong, I don't get into all that. I just don't. I know this. I know the United States. I know Israel is the beacon of freedom over there, and I know that they're hated by everybody around them, and they always have been. But the fact is, the United States is going to side with Israel 100% of the time. There's not enough, there's not enough AOCs and Omars to try and change that fact. It's just always going to be the case. And in the end, either they're going to accept a two-state solution, or it's going to continue this way. I would say this, though.
Well, the
The
problem is,
Palestinians need to stop they need to stop associating themselves with Hamas.
100%. And the thing is, Israel, I mean, and again, I'm not claiming to be an expert, but from all outside looking in, Israel wants the two-state solution, and Palestine wants Israel to be gone. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well,
Like,
but that's the thing. I don't think, and I could be wrong, right? But I mean, I've spoken to some people who they're American Palestinian, but I'm sure they follow it as close, as close as anyone. That there are people like the regular people. This is what I was saying. They need to get away from Hamas
yeah,
because in the end, like Hamas keeps stoking this. They keep poking the bear, right?
right.
And it's like there'll never be a peace deal as long as you're because Hamas, the tactics that they use will never be accepted by the world community. They will always be the bad guy because they target. It's not that they kill women and children. Women and children are the target. And there's a difference. I don't do the moral equivalency of a bomb hitting a building and a woman and a child die who were near the building. Like that's not the same as dropping the bomb on the woman and child. Like it's just not. Intent matters. And when you're just slaughtering women and children like that blindly, now I understand if you're on the ground and a bomb hits and it's your daughter and mom or whatever, that get killed, you're not seeing this distinction that I'm making right now. So I get that. But in the end, Hamas is also known for tactics like hiding their armaments inside of a school, like things like that, where and then they blow up the school because they know the armaments are there, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, look at the carnage, you blew up women and children, and it's like Hamas is, to me, Palestinians just need to separate themselves from that mess. It wasn't great under Arafat, but it was better than this. Like these people are friggin' like these Hamas dudes. All they do is they launch some attack like this, and then the response is 15 times harder on the people than whatever Hamas accomplishes with their attack. And then what happens? The Palestinians suffer again. And then they're getting sold a bad bag of goods the same way we're getting sold a bad bag of goods about our government. It's just a moment where they got to just stop and be like, look, I ain't doing this anymore. I ain't doing that anymore. And Sidke says he's an Indian live in Saudi Arabia. There you go.
Oh wow, look
I
at
don't
that.
know
What
if
time
I've
is it
had
over
Saudi
there?
Arabia on before. I've had no, that was Eastern
You should get a
Europe. I had
map.
Kazakhstan. I had there were a few in the early days that were from from the Mideast, but not Saudi Arabia. So that's
You
good.
should
I
get a map
appreciate you
and
coming
put a
on,
dot on it every time you have a new.
and I appreciate the perspective. So, and then this is they voted in. No, I know that's what I'm saying. They voted in Hamas, right? So, and that's the thing. So this is where I'm saying they got, because there are a lot of people, and number one, the elections there. I mean, I I don't know.
Don't say it. You're gonna lose monetization over here. Don't say it.
I don't know that they're shady, but I'm not saying. I'm just saying. If there were a place that was going to have shady elections, I
I heard
think
they
the
use
Gaza
Dominion
Strip
voting
might be one of
machines.
them. What's that?
Any truth that they use Dominion voting machines over there?
Yeah, that's what it is. That's the entire problem between Palestine and Israel is they're using Dominion voting machines,
There's a
and we all
Maricopa
know.
County in Palestine, if you didn't know.
No, but seriously though, like on because I hate messing around with this because it is so serious, right? Like there are so many people dying, and it's just like at some point, like as someone who's not like it's not like I'm going to get on a plane and fly down there and change the situation. So you're forced to just watch it unfold, and when you do, it's really hard to watch it and not. I mean, I guess if you're young and this kind of thing is new to you, then like okay, then I can see this being intriguing and etc. But like outside of the global scheme of it, I'm just like it a war between Hamas and Israel is about as common as it gets. I mean, it's if there's any constant, it's like waves pound the sand. The stars shine in the sky, and Hamas is at war with Israel, or vice versa. So it's like, I mean
Nope.
that's where
The
that's where I
Hatfields and the
get with that.
McCoys.
Yeah, yeah, on a much grander scale, but yes, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that's kind of where it is, and I'm like, when it comes down to what the global scheme is, I mean, the only thing I know for sure is that the United States government right now is being run by some severely shit. It has been for a long time, but on next level shadiness right now coming from deep state, and I have to assume that's who's calling the shots. In the White House is deep state. Because it sure as hell ain't Kamala Harris, and so you got to assume that that's the case. Now, and while the House wastes their time trying to impeach and this, I mean, I don't know if you were watching last week, Ruben. I went nuts over the House last week with the whole Kevin McCarthy thing. Like watching people that I respect, like all the cognitive dissonance going on. You've got like Jim Jordan and friggin', a bunch of them all coming onto the side of Kevin
Well,
McCarthy,
I
and
don't
I'm
know if you
just
heard
like going nuts.
they they backed Steve Scalise today.
That's what they said, but then they don't know if he can get the votes and
It's split. It was 116 to 90 or something like that. So we're gonna go through the whole thing that we went through back in February all over
right.
again. And this poor
But I
guy is
don't think it's a
suffering from
bad thing,
cancer
though.
for crying out loud.
I don't think it's a bad thing.
It's just a
I
waste of
think right
time.
now the
Let's
House
be
of
honest.
Representatives is the only chamber of the entire government that's not fully under the arm of deep state.
Oh, that's
Like
fair, but at the same time, it's just it's just more wasted time that they're wasting
but you
time.
know what though? Like there are demands that have to get made. As
Okay.
long as the deep state is running the show, these proxy wars are going to continue. Look, I know there's a ton of people out there who feel like the Israeli-Palestine conflict right now is somehow ties back to the United States, if not the United States to the WEF and the U. Like I know there are a ton of people out there who feel that way right now, and I can't turn around and look them in the eye and be like, it's definitely not. Like I can't do that. Right. I don't think it is, but I think it involves us in the sense that it was done to cause grief to us, but I don't think that we did it. But I can't sit here and confirm and say, nope, deep state absolutely has no hand in this. I can't do it. They've been running proxy wars literally, like the idea that they found another war so quickly after Trump leaves is just it's too obvious at this point.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's too obvious. Like Trump comes in, we all know he's not in the club. I don't care if you love him or hate him, he's not in the club. He is absolutely not. If you can't figure that out by now, then your opinions aren't valid to me. Like, I just won't listen to an opinion if someone's going to tell me Trump is a part of the deep state. So here he is. He comes in. Let's agree that he's not. And magically, there are no wars. Magically. For the first time in my lifetime that we were in no conflict anywhere. I mean, it's just one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other. And then, boom, all of a sudden, there's none. Little cleanup done in Syria, but that was already going on. And that was it. That was the end of it. The only war he really dealt with was friggin' killing ISIS. And that was quick. That was done in like what seemed like political minutes. And then it was over. And then now it's like, you sit here friggin' looking at it. I mean, anyone who thinks Biden is actually running things, it's just absurd at this point. It's funny. It's funny. Like, that's one of those things where you just keep laughing louder and louder until the person walks out of the room, if that's what they believe. And here's one autistic berserker jumping in saying, thinking the deep state is all joke and whatever. Like, I mean, those people are out there too. But at the end, here's what I know. I know the president and VP ain't running it. Kamala, I don't even know what Kamala does. Nobody knows what Kamala does.
But I mean, whoever's running it isn't even, they're not even trying to hide it because, I mean, what president would take 2 days to comment on the Israel conflict? You know what I mean? It took 2 full days to comment. Like, so they're trying to show you that like, look,
that's
this guy has
time, bro. The guy can't. They can't.
The guy had a barbecue.
They can't just give him a speech though and let him go read it because he'll screw it up.
That's what I mean. Like, I mean, how can anybody say that? So if it's not being run, like you say it's being run, then you have to agree that he's most incompetent president in the history of president.
Bro, he's literally is suffering.
No, I
dementia.
agree with you. What I'm saying is, for the people that say that he has it all together and he's not being run by somebody else,
come on,
like this guy, your berserker friend is laughing at you. Like, that's what I mean. Like, does this guy think that this guy berserker that just commented that? Well, so it's either, if there's not a deep state, then you have to admit that this guy is the most incompetent person to ever set foot in the White House. And I don't mean president. I mean literally the most incompetent person. Like, they have dishwashers.
Like, if you're going to blow off his mental health issues.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, there's a dishwasher in there that a gardener that is more competent than the president at this point.
Because they just, you know what it is? Every time he goes to the podium, midstream, they change where he's supposed to exit from. And so they keep telling him, you're going to exit left. You're going to exit left. And then right at the last second, he starts walking left. And they're like, no, we're going to change it. We're going right. We're going right. And that's what's causing all the blank moments where he just stands there and just doesn't know, and his wife has to come in and save him.
I personally feel bad for the man, tell you the truth.
I said that early on because I feel bad for him, but then I don't. Like, I feel bad that someone who's like clearly doesn't have their wits about them has to go, like, they're just dragging this guy around like a circus lion, like it's like friggin' or a circus clown. Like, it's come here, walk here, go there, walk here, say this, say that, and he's got to like go through all that. And from a humanity perspective, just as a Christian, it's like that don't sound right. You know what I mean? That don't look right. But at the same time, this guy's whole life, it's not like he was an honorable man his whole life. And now is being put through the ringer like this. Like, the guy's been a dirtbag his whole life. So it's almost like this is a part of penance. You know what I mean? It's almost like, Lyndon Kasub says Obama's third turn. That is the Biden puppet. Yeah, a lot of people believe that. To be honest with you, though, I think Obama was kind of a puppet too. I mean, the guy's never led anything in his life, right? So I'm not looking at him as if he was a very charismatic leader. He had all the charisma. He had the talking points. He didn't have the issues. Like, when they put the words in Obama's mouth, they came out gold. You put them in Biden's mouth and they come out, he starts inventing new ones and stuff. People like Webster's Dictionary watching every speech, like trying to figure out how to spell the new word that he just made up. whereas Obama was far smoother. But in the end, Obama, think about it, he never ran anything in his entire life and then ran the United States of America. Like, the first thing you ever run is the United States of America. That's insane to me. It's why I don't like senators in general. Senators, House reps, they're not leaders. Those are not leaders. They have no leadership
Never led
responsibility.
anything.
Yeah,
They,
they
you know what
vote.
they
They're
are?
not
They're
running
fundraisers.
anything.
That's all they are.
Yeah.
They're fundraisers. I've
Yep.
learned this in New Jersey better than
It shouldn't be, but that's
how
what they are.
I live in New Jersey. I try to follow politics as much as I can. I tried to get really involved this year with the Senate Assembly races, and I've come to realize that in New Jersey, and I hate to say this out loud, but it's true. Don't get me wrong, not all of New Jersey. You know how New Jersey is. Again, it's like California. It's like New York. It's pretty much a red state, except for 5 or 6 counties that just have all the people, right? Um, but those counties, like, all they do is ask for money. They have no intention on winning.
Right.
They have zero in my county, Essex County. They have zero intention of winning a race, and we have somebody running who's trying his best. But honestly, the party leadership, they make more money by losing. They're like they're like the Florida Marlins or
You're
the
talking
Pittsburgh
locally,
Pirates.
right? You're saying like
Well,
local.
I'm not talking on a national. I'm talking like state assembly and state
Right.
senate and stuff like that.
But
Like,
even on a
they make more
national
money
scale,
losing.
like when
Oh,
I listen
100%.
to
We elected Menendez after he was indicted. And now everybody's like, "Oh my God, he needs to." Are you kidding me? He was indicted before. You voted for him anyway,
right,
and
right.
now you're upset that he got indicted again.
There
Hello.
was a
Like,
funny thing in the Babylon Bee about Dianne Feinstein, and they put out like it was going to be an article, and it was like
uh,
experts say death of Dianne Feinstein should not hurt her reelection
yeah,
chances
re-election
in
chances. It's a
2024.
distinguished gentleman. Do you ever see a
And
distinguished
honestly, if they
gentleman?
put her on the ballot, dude, like they could
Yeah,
get her
she
back
would
in.
win. She would get at least
And I don't
30%
even
of the vote.
at this point though, I don't even think it's because like the public is so stupid. I think it's because so many people don't vote in non-presidential elections.
Oh well, that's
And I think that's in the end, like, because the game that gets played there, and this is what they call a ground game, like they're not fixing voting machines or doing, all of stuffing ballots. They don't have to, because with the low turnout that there is, all they have to do is get out on the ground and
they do that very
friggin'
well.
and fill up buses and get, whatever, homeless people, here's a ham sandwich and a bottle of whiskey, go in there, you're going to push everything that has a D next to it. Okay. Boom, fill a bus up with those people, get them down there. Because the count is so low, I mean, the homeless one is probably a little bit of an exaggeration, although there are stories of that very thing happening. But the thing is, they go and they rally
The
together
senior
enough
centers.
people.
They
Yeah,
do it at
whatever.
senior centers.
Senior centers,
Churches.
maybe 18-year-olds just turned old enough to vote, and they drag them in there, and like whatever. That kind of, like, when the people are active, that kind of stuff doesn't work. But like when people are not paying attention, that kind of stuff works.
Well,
That's how
believe it
people
or
like
not, I
that's how
think the
people like
stolen
McCarthy.
election.
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, real quick. I think the stolen election, especially where I am in New Jersey, Essex County, especially, I think the stolen election narrative actually hurt the Republicans more than it helped them at all, because it didn't galvanize them to go out and vote. It kept people home thinking it's just not worth it. What's the point of going to vote? And I heard that. Like, I heard that, especially in my county, was, and I'm in a very we're 65% um Democrats in Essex County, 65-70%. So it's like New
Right.
York City, but still it's like you could chip away, you know what I mean?
Right.
And there's no chipping away. It's
And
people
right
just
now,
quit.
because the Marxist narrative, because there is no left and right? This is my show mantra. I say this all the time. There's Americans and there are Marxists. Like, that's it. Like you could be, you're on the American side even if you're pro-abortion. You may not be on the Christian side, but you can be on the American side and be pro-abortion or pro-union or the old classic, Democrat stances. But you can't be on that side and be anti-Constitution, pro-sexualization of children, like all of those things are designed strictly with Marxist goals in mind. And I love listening to the simpleton be like, oh, that's so crazy, is Marxism, blah blah blah. And like most of them don't understand Marxism. They don't understand, they don't understand the history of how communism infects a nation, how those nations fall, how it all starts with with separating people from religion, then separating people, children from their families mentally, right? So that the state now takes control. Like they don't know that that's an actual playbook that is played out so many times in world history, that the fact that they don't even change the game plan at all just tells you how little people pay attention, right? Like that's what it tells you. It tells you how little people pay attention. And and just like my Article 5, like dude, we've been at night. We didn't get any states so far this year, right? I think there might be a few that we won Kansas, but they had some weird supermajority rule just for Article 5 votes that we had to deal with. But other than that, like this was a slower year. Last year we got 4 on board. The fact of the matter is, though, if people understood the Constitution and understood, I could find you a lot more people that will say we have no power to do anything than understand that we have enough power to do everything. Like in a second, I could go out and find people who have thrown their hands up and think that the problems are too big and that things cannot be fixed. When you talk to people about a 30 now thanks to McCarthy, it's projected to hit $36 trillion. So now, when you talk about $36 trillion debts, like and you look and you see that 200 House members are okay with it, like they thought that was good governance, setting us up for a projected $36 trillion debt from 32. They think that's good governance. Like it blows my mind. But there's no way these people would think that way if their constituents, if they weren't locks for their office, like if their election wasn't locked in or they didn't at least feel it was, there's no way you get up in front of your constituents and try and explain why
Well,
McCarthy should have been Speaker of the
it
House.
goes back to the whole with this whole thing that happened last week. The, all they were talking about was, we're getting rid of McCarthy. He was great at fundraising. We're getting rid of this. He was and that's the problem. Which one of the reasons why, circling back to the whole point of the podcast, right? Why you need Article 5 is because their job is no longer to govern. Their job is 100% to get elected, and that's by across the board. Their job is to get elected.
When's the last time, I heard Gates talking about why he was doing what he was doing. They were interviewing him and they're trying to throw these gotcha questions. And he's just up there cracking these things out of the park. And one of the things that he said that I never realized how few people say it because it never gets said. And then he said it. And I was like, yeah, when did that go away? He was like, I'm not here to serve the United States of America. He's like, I am here to serve district, whatever his district number is in Florida. He's like, those are the people. The United States did not elect me into this seat. He's like, the people of Florida did in my district. And what they want is all this crap to get cleaned up. So your problem now is that you didn't get enough victories, Republican Party, in the last election to make me irrelevant. So right. now, me and my 6 or 7, cohorts, you didn't get enough votes to make us irrelevant. And the fact is, and if you think about it, go back. I don't pick your favorite one. They never talk about their constituents. They always talk on a grand scale. This nation, this nation, this nation. And it's like, whoa, you're not here to represent the United States. You're in the United States. Everybody here is in the United States. Like, you're here to represent your district. And there's no way on earth that these people's districts were okay with McCarthy. There's no way. And even if you want to say 1 or 2 was, the overwhelming majority were not. When I went on that rant on McCarthy, almost all the comments were in agreement. People talking about cognitive dissonance, trying to wrap their head around the fact that they love Jim Jordan, but they want to like push him off a bridge right now because he was so he was so like on board. Trump stepping in, talking about how we shouldn't be infighting, just leave McCarthy there, like all the, and everyone's just stopping and they're looking at the people that they trust and they're just like, dude, like, are you that far out of touch with where your constituents? Like Trump has no idea where his constituents are. He has no idea. He doesn't care because his constituents, they'll vote if Trump got up tomorrow and just made some wild freaking crazy, insane freaking statements. He wouldn't lose any points. Says, wow, just me on YouTube with 14 on Rumble. Yeah, I stay on YouTube out of just respect for the people that followed us there. But YouTube doesn't let anybody know that we're live. But I still go on. I haven't cut it off, but my focus hasn't been on YouTube in a long time. That following has been stagnant. Well, Facebook has been my main, and then Rumble right after that. And it has to be that way because Facebook is now almost 18,000, whereas YouTube's been at 1,400 for the last 7-8 months, something like that. And we've been banned 6 times on YouTube. I've been 7 times actually. I won the appeal on the last one because it was so cut and dry and so simple to friggin' debate, to argue that someone, not that matters because they'll still reject the appeal. But yeah, I appreciate your noticing that. There's Rumble has always been, as far as the live, I mean, Rumble's gotten up to 25, 30, 35, whereas, as far as YouTube is concerned, if there's 2 on a given live event, that's like, wow. And if I I'll put a video up on Rumble, it'll get 150, 200, 300 views. Facebook will get into the thousands, but on Rumble, just to compare apples to apples, I'll put a video up on Rumble, it'll get 200-300 views. I got 600 followers on Rumble. I got 1,400 on YouTube, and I'll get like 6. So it's like, if you just let people know the video is there, more people will watch it. Then clearly is what's going on with YouTube. But I appreciate your pointing that out.
So George, I hear California has actually decided to fight back on some issues, huh?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and so for those that have been following the videos I've been dropping in the last week or so, it's been some exciting stuff. It's been about the wins that parents are getting here in the States, and it really started me down that path. What started me down that path was the uproar in Canada, the million-person march, or the million march for kids that they did. And if people aren't aware of that, it was an amazing, amazing thing they did all over the country. And why that's significant is because, as I always say, there aren't that many of these Marxist activists. So when you do things on a grand scale and spread it out like that, they can't follow you. They have to pick a spot and get the camera opportunities in that spot. And that's what they did. They gathered all of their people in Ottawa, because that's the capital, and tried to, and they were still greatly outnumbered even there. And we even had recordings of the friggin' communist organizations and unions like planning weeks and weeks before for how they're going to combat this million march. And still they got out. Some places they were so badly outnumbered. Like there, and I showed videos on all this, folks. You can go back and look at them, but like there were clips of like literally like 5 people standing. I think it was St. Catharines, 5 people standing there, and they're chanting like trans rights or human rights. You literally could hear the individual voices, right? Like that's how few people there were. And the on their camera, you just see a field full of people, and those were all the parents. Those were all the parents, and it was awesome to see. So then the story came up with Chino, which I thought was just awesome, because all these places are like not far from me. So there was Chino, Temecula, and I think and Sunol, but that's Sunol's further. But Chino and Temecula are not far from me at all. And Chino went ahead and freaking set the school board dude to bed. I mean, they sent the state, not school board, he was the state superintendent that was sent down to their board meeting. Now, Chino is a city in the Inland Empire in California, which is a vast area where I live, inland, okay, as it suggests, like away from the coast. And it's one of those districts. It's mostly conservative here. I try to tell people this all the time. Parents overtook the school board with one of their own, or two or three of their own actually, and went nuts. And just started passing one thing after another. And they were about to pass, and they did pass the parental disclosure piece, where the state was saying you don't have to tell parents about sexualizing their kids. And they were like, oh, hell no. And the night that they were going to vote on it, they sent the state superintendent down there, and she owned him. I'm going to play the clip for people that didn't see this because it's that good. I don't have the ability to fast forward with this software, so you're going to listen to him try to make his case, but it's all the better because you get to see how she cuts him off. So what you're about to watch is the state superintendent coming up to speak against letting parents know that their children want to change genders, want to new pronouns, or whatever other garbage they're pumping.
New names. They want new names.
Yeah, names. Yep. Hold on. Let's play.
The first speaker is Tony Thurmond.
Please be respectful on both sides. Both sides. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, parents, teachers, and students. I stand before you as a proud American, as a man of faith, the son of a veteran who served in Vietnam, who's buried not far from here. I love this country. And in addition to being the state superintendent, I am also a parent. And I come before you as a parent tonight. And we can debate all of the laws and all of the policies and practices. I ask you to consider this, that nearly half of students who identify as being LGBTQ+ are considering suicide. I ask you to consider this, that the policy that you consider tonight not only may fall outside of the laws that respect privacy and safety for our students, but may put our students at risk because they may not be in homes where they can be safe.
Time. And I learned something from a previous board president. Guys, be respectful. I am going to do a point of order, which I learned from a previous board president. Tony Thurmond, I appreciate you being here tremendously. But here's the problem. We're here because of people like you. You're in Sacramento proposing things that pervert children. You had a chance to come and talk to me, Tony. By all means, you had a chance to come talk to me. Why was it so important for you to walk with my opponent? You are the very reason why we're in this.
May I have, as a point of order, as the board president...
Point of order, this is not your meeting. You may have a seat, because if I did that to you in Sacramento, you would not accept it. Please sit.
Can I get a point of order?
You're not going to blackmail us. You already sent us a blackmailing letter on previous things. You'll not bully us here in Chino. Please seat.
Point of order.
In Chino. We're going to take a 5-minute break.
And she
I
just
love.
dropped
Why
the
am I
mic.
blue?
I don't know, man. That's on your end. You going
I
for
love that
rustic
video
look?
so much. I
But
love
it was
that video
phenomenal
so much because
she
as someone
did to
who
him.
goes to meetings all the time, that is 100% what happens to. I'm going to stop and start, but I think you can still hear me. It's 100% what happens at our meetings. The board will sit there and let you talk, and then 5 minutes is up, and then you walk away, and then they just. I don't know why I'm blue, but you're gonna
Whatever.
have to deal
We
with
can
me
still
being
see
blue
you.
for a few minutes.
Conversation goes on.
and they'll cut you off, and then they talk over you, and they what I call gaslighting, because they'll give you you'll go up there, for example, you'll go up there and say, hey, the sky is blue because of this and this and this, and then when they turn off your mic and you walk away, they say, well, no, it's actually red, and you can't rebut, you can't do anything. So I love
Right.
that she turned around and did that to him. I just love it. I love
And
it so much.
like, especially when he came back and was like, point of order, I'd like to. She was like, no. she's like, if I was in Sacramento and I was standing before you, you wouldn't give me that opportunity. Get off, go sit down. I was just like, I love her, and she's right, and like, I've been putting these videos out because they've been testimony to, like, what happens when you end up in a situation where you take over, where you get active locally, where you go in. All right, you know what, we've now discovered since 2020 that the curriculums in our schools are insane, that they're poisoning our children's heads, that they're actively keeping information from parents, and all of these things have been true. But at the same time, it's like, if these things are going to be true, then we need to take action to stop them. And it wasn't just a matter of yelling about it. There were paths for us to do it, and we're taking them. And you see stuff like that. The other one was Temecula, where Temecula and I think it's Sunul, I believe it is, districts. Sunul is a very small one, so I have all the right verbiage in the video that I did for it. But it's a small one. There's only like 300 kids in the school. They only have one school in the district. But Temecula is not. Temecula's district is significant, and they both almost simultaneously banned all flags from campus, from school campuses, from grammar school to high school. All flags are banned except for the United States flag and the California flag, which is as it should be. And the basic premise of the decision was, where we want, ironically enough, is that we want to be inclusive. Is that the whole point of doing this, is to be inclusive, because there is no more inclusive flag than the United States flag. And that's just real talk. Like, everybody gets encompassed. Mike Arnold, how are you, Mike? He says you're blue because are you sad, Ruben?
Yeah, I'm wearing a Giants jersey. Haven't you? A Giants sweatshirt? Can't you tell?
Yeah, that's true. That could make you. That could make anyone sad.
Yeah.
Lyndon
But
Kosich,
I mean, we're fighting this here, and it's frustrating to see California standing up for their rights, and it's so hard here to stand up for your rights. I don't know if, especially like in my district, we're so dependent on state aid, that if we do try to fight any of this, Governor Murphy, or King Murphy, as I like to refer to him, I'm sure he refers to himself as well. He'll turn around and just say, okay, well, then when it's not, we're just going to take away your funding next year. We're just going to take away
and
this
they're
grant,
doing that
this
here.
grant.
They're doing that here too. They're suing them. Is what's even worse. They're not just saying we'll take away your funding, but we're going to sue you. But like, what parents have to understand is this, and I think it's important, because. And I think these boards of education that are being elected in need to just talk to parents directly and be like, listen, this is the situation we're in, right? The state wants to go to war to take your children, to miseducate your children. Like, the state is ready. The state is ready and prepared to go to war to miseducate you. It's that important to them that they sexualize your children.
They'll take them away from you if you don't agree with what they're doing. Like,
right.
They're willing to take away your children, literally. And you say that to people, and people will roll their eyes at you, and they don't believe that that's what they will come to. California literally says we have the right to DPW,
CPS,
diaper, whatever it's called, and they'll take away your children. And I mean, like, on our board personally, we have one person who's fighting, and she fights like I can't.
But the thing is, Rube, like, if these boards of education just get real, because parents have to understand that there's more to the fight than just electing the board, because if you can't get the elections done on the state level, then you've got to be ready to go to war. And when I say war, I mean they're gonna have to say, okay, cut our funding, and let's start getting creative. I'd be like, you know what? I'd rather, as detrimental as that will be, okay, as painful in some way that will be, you have to ask yourself what is more important, because in the end, the whole goal here is to be like, look, these parents, you're forcing these parents to educate with stuff that's not education, right? We all know it's indoctrination, and you're forcing this on them to the point where you're willing to destroy the school rather than
Well, you know what nobody
change
talks
to the way
about?
parents want you to be. And if that's the case, if the state is, then start making them do it. Like, call them on it and be like, you know what? All right. And now it may mean, you know what? We've got, because now what are they going to do? Say we're not going to pay teachers? It's not the teachers who are making those decisions. So they're going to pay the teachers, even though the teachers likely agree with those decisions. They're not going to stop paying the teachers, because now they're going to be at odds with the unions. And now they'll be at odds with the unions. Now it doesn't matter, who votes for who in the state. If it's blue, the union owns them. And that's the bottom line. So the teachers are going to get paid. What's going to end up getting hurt is they'll have to cut extracurricular programs. They'll have to cut other things like that. And that sucks. But again, when you compare it to not cutting like, if the state's only going to give you the option to operate on a needle and thread budget, or your other alternative is that they could sexualize your children in third grade and then not tell you about it. Like, if that's the only option, it's kids first. The state,
you know what
doesn't
else
care.
people lose sight of? Like, the school day is only so long, right? It's, let's say, 6 hours at the end, right? 9 to 3, whatever it is, 6 hours, give or take. Like, there's Nikki. That's who's fighting for us. Actually, she's on watching. So hi, Nikki. She's actually our board of ed member. That's actually fighting. She went and fought. She fought the sex ed thing in our district and had it
Good for you,
dumbed
Nikki.
down. For lack of a better word, had it broken down to where we did the bare minimum, basically, of what we had to teach. Because you have to teach some of it, or they will just strip you. And they also, they could file in New Jersey. They can file ethics charges against you, to the board members, and remove the board members if they go against it. So it's just it's ridiculous. But what I was trying to say is the day is only 6 hours long, right? If in the last couple of years they've added the sex ed, and I'm just talking, of course, I'm just talking New Jersey. They've added sex ed, they've added climate crisis as a class. They're adding SEL or CRT, however you want to call it. Now they're adding equity versus equality training. You're adding all these things at what expense? They're not cutting, they're still having art, they still have gym, they're cutting math, they're cutting science. I just got our science scores in our district, they're horrible. I'm upstairs every day now. My kid comes home and I have to basically spend an hour a day teaching her the math she learned at school. And it's not the teacher's fault. He's trying his best. This is why we're losing teachers at a ridiculous rate, because teachers, they don't want to be the teachers that want to deal with this, they deal with it. The ones that don't want to do it, they're not fighting, they're going and getting a job. In states like North Carolina, you can make more money tutoring than you can teaching. There's teachers in North Carolina that tutor their own students and make more money on the tutoring. So there's a benefit to not teaching the kids. Hey, the kid's not learning, that's all right. Come after school and help them charge you 20
that
bucks
ain't the
an hour.
case here in Cali.
These
teachers are compensated over here. I'm sure
New Jersey
everybody
pays
feels
well.
like they should make more money, but
I mean,
But,
you're never going to pay. That's like the minimum wage argument, right? When teachers need more money. Well, how much?
no,
Minimum
they
wage
get
should be
paid.
more money.
They get paid well
you know?
here in Cali, though. There's no doubt about that. But the problem, like, to me, yeah, you're gonna have your psycho teachers, right? And I think teachers, often the good ones, like, and I don't think they're justified in doing so, but they are in a sense of trying to defend themselves. But you can't sit there, because a lot of them for a long time would be like, well, that never happens in my school. That would never happen. Well, you know what?
Until
There's
it
so
does.
many examples of it that it's impossible. It's impossible to think like there's this lady, right? So we all know this lady. I'll play the clip.
Okay, so during third period, we have announcements and they do the Pledge of Allegiance. I always tell my class, stand if you feel like it, don't stand if you feel like it, say the words if you want, don't have to say the words. So my class decided to stand but not say the words. Totally fine. Except for the fact that my room does not have a flag. It used to be there, but I took it down during COVID because it made me uncomfortable. And I packed it away and I don't know where, and I haven't found it yet. But my kid today goes, hey, it's kind of weird that we just stand and then, we say it to nothing. And I'm like, oh, well, I gotta find it. Like, I'm working on it. I got you. In the meantime, I tell this kid, we do have a flag in the class that you can pledge your allegiance to. And he looks around and he goes, oh, that one?
Not in Temecula anymore. Now that woman got fired, okay, but that doesn't make it
Is that
okay
a Libs
because
TikTok video?
I don't even
Is that
think so.
an
I think
expose from them?
she went viral. It was probably 8 months ago or so, and she got terminated for it. But the reason I show the clip is because it's not. They would not have terminated her if she if it didn't come out and go viral and people were like, "What the f?" That was up until that moment that she made that video. What she was doing was perfectly acceptable in that school. She was so comfortable, in fact, doing that kind of stuff that it didn't even occur to her that making a video like that could be a problem. Like, it didn't even strike her as being something that could be an issue. I mean, we had this. It might cover your face, Rube. Sorry about that in advance. Put it in the middle here. This was in my daughter's classroom. Look at that. It knocked Ruben right. Sorry, Ruben, you might be allergic. But they put this poster. Like, my daughter was texting me because I educate my own daughter in the way of civics, and she just blew through. She knows every amendment. She even caught me on 2 of them. Like, she knows this freaking. She's gonna know the Constitution better than I do when I'm done with her. And she pointed this out in one of her classrooms in high school, only to ask me who's the guy on the bus. She didn't know Fidel. So, because I didn't get to Fidel Castro yet. But she knew Lenin, she knew Mao, she knew Marx, and she knew Stalin. And she sent me this text with this picture in it because her point was, who's the guy in the bottom? Now, I don't have to, fortunately, teach her that these people are psychopaths and represent a party that is responsible for the deaths of tens of millions of innocent people, because she understands that and she knows that. So I didn't have to explain that. But in the end, many people who aren't dialed in, who don't really know, the people who are like, oh, there's nothing Marxist, there's not, like, those people, that lady will get a hold of your kids, and by the time they get out of grammar school, you won't even know who your kid is. And not only that, but they'll prep them in such a way that they'll preempt reality that you're going to try and give them when you realize the crazy crap they've learned. And they'll tell the kid, unbeknownst to you, that your parents are actually racist, and here's the argument they're going to bring, and then they're going to say the truth.
I always said that's why the whole new math and the new way of learning was ushered in, to make parents seem like they don't know what the hell they're talking about.
It's very possible. I mean, now I have people in my family in the education sector. I don't disclose names because who knows what could happen to them for having a relative like me. But that being said, there's logic behind the Common Core math. It's just not very good logic. But there's logic. If you think, I'll give to all those who are freaked out about Common Core. If you work out a problem in your head, you probably already do what they're making these kids, this long process.
My mother actually taught me math the Common Core way, because she taught me the brute force method. Like, that's just the way she taught me. So I kind of get the idea of it, but the issue is the issue isn't the Common Core math. The issue
I
is
get it.
Your parents can't help you when you get home.
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? And I always
Keep
felt
the
like that was
conversations to a minimum, right? So it's
right.
like, and there's certain cultures who just won't allow that, right? Like you, like there ain't no way an Asian kid's
You
coming
want to hear
home.
something
I
funny?
can tell you right
And
now, firsthand, Korean kids are not coming home getting, not talking school. You know what I'm saying?
a couple meetings ago on our in our district, um, and in fact, I'm going Monday to bring this up. Our superintendent actually said that when his kid comes home from school, now our superintendent, I've had calls with him. But at the end of the day, he's a smart guy. He's got a couple of masters. He has a doctorate. He's a smart dude. He's an educator. He's been a superintendent for years. Okay. He said he has trouble helping his son with the math homework because he doesn't know how to teach it to his kid the way the teacher wants him to do it. He knows how to do it, but he doesn't know how to do it the way the teacher wants it done. This is theoretically the smartest guy in our district, employed by our district, is saying that it's not working. And the reason I'm going on Monday is because I'm going to be like, if you know it's not working, like,
Why are we all still doing
why,
this?
why are we? There's no one higher than you. Why are we doing this?
I mean, even without the indoctrination and all that crazy stuff, our school system, its structure is horrific. It's horrific. Even if they were teaching the right stuff, even if I say when they bring civics back to the classroom, because there's nothing that pisses me off more than that. Nothing that they took civics out of the classroom. And when you listen, even when I was looking for clips for that Sunil Glen County in California, when I was looking for clips for it, I'm even listening to some of these people be like, look, all this transgender issues, these are all a part of our social studies and history curriculum. I'm like, social studies is not history, first of all. History is history. Social studies is a bastardization of civics that handpicks certain pieces of civics to teach and then blurs it in with a ton of social issues that have no bearing, most of which should not even be taught in the lower level school grades. And so, but in their head, right? In their head, this is like when I've asked teachers, I've asked them, like, so what is our government system? What type of system of government do we have here in the United States? None of them knew it. None of them. Not one. I think Ruben, all right, you're there. You were looking the same way. You didn't move, so I was like, "Is he frozen?" but not one of them knew that we live in a constitutional republic. And there was actually two of them who
the
went to
teachers
go.
probably don't even know.
No, that's what they were. That's what I'm saying. They were teachers. And they went ahead and one of them tried to Google it because they weren't standing in front of me when I asked. So how do I know they tried to Google it? Because they came back and said, actually, we live in a democratic republic, which is what comes up in Google, by the way, when you put it in. And I guess different things come up for everybody under Google, but that's what, when I went and Googled it, that's what came up. So when she said that, I'm like, she just Googled it because she didn't know the answer, and now she's twice as stupid because she not only doesn't know the answer, but now she's convinced that she does, and she's wrong. and of course, I corrected her and went through the conversation, but that's fundamental education right there. Like, that's the kind of thing that gets taught in grammar school. It's not that far overhead to pick that up in grammar school. Certainly middle school. But this is completely removed from the curriculum. If you ask people, even Donald Trump, I had a clip of different politicians because I made this one video. If you haven't seen it, folks, you should go back and check it out in my feed. There's one that I did because I just got so enraged about the fact that so many people did not know we live in a constitutional republic and what the difference is, that I went and found, which I don't know if I started it, but right after I did that video, I started seeing all kinds of stuff on Instagram and everywhere else with the same video. And it was from like 1950 or something, where there's a guy sitting down in his nice, suit, because everybody was so damn dapper back then. And he sat down and he went ahead and gave an education as to what the difference is and started quoting the founders and the whole nine. And then in the beginning, I put clips I had Bernie Sanders in there. I had a bunch of them in there, but even Donald Trump was in there talking about we need to save our democracy. And I'm like, it sounds like a subtlety, but it's not. Like, it's serious. The difference between the way that we've been socialized to think that we live in a democracy and have no idea that the founders were absolute not. It's not only did they not want a democracy, they
They
were
were
running
hell-bent
from
against
one
it.
like the plague. like they're quoted over and over and over and over again about how scared they were that this could turn into a democracy and set up systems as such to virtually guarantee that it never become one. And people don't understand why. They think democracy, they think that's a good thing. Because it's so embedded in the culture, because it's been pumped in since the 60s when they removed civics. It's been so pumped into the mindset, and words matter. Like, people don't realize words matter. Most of what Marxism does in their process, in the whole ideological subversion, as Yuri Bezmenov calls it, one of the biggest things they do is they control words. They control language. That's where the political correct culture comes from. They control words, because you control words, you control the narrative. And nobody pays attention, dude. It drives me nuts. It's one of those things that just makes me want to freaking jump. I'm just like, I'm done. We can't even get people to know what kind of government we're trying to save. It's like, where do you go from there? You don't even know what you're trying to save. You have no idea what this country even is. How on earth are you supposed to defend it? How on earth? I sit here talking about Article 5. I talk to some of these people. They stand there deer in the headlights. And it doesn't bother me that someone doesn't know, because we all weren't educated, right? Like, it's only been a few years now that I fully understand the power that comes with Article 5. But, like, even then, right? When I found out about it, I didn't just, like, blow it off and walk away. Like, I looked into it. I read up on it. I watched. If you go to right on my website, as a matter of fact, under the cause tab for Convention of States, there's a Cause University link to the Convention of States website, where they have, and once you sign the petition and volunteer, you go into Cause University, because they don't want you going out there talking smack when you don't know what you're talking about. So they educate you first. It's a simple process.
They also give you the little the cheat sheet guide that you could download on your phone.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like there's information out there. There's people out there trying to get the word out. There's people out there trying, and it's not even like, at Convention of States as an organization, they're not even like, it's not even just about Article 5. Like, it's just about the Constitution, period. Like, it's just an understanding of history and the Constitution as it happened, not how it's being rewritten. And this, the fight we have with our kids in these schools, this is the biggest part of it. Because you can't, what did Reagan say, right? Freedom is always a generation away.
Yep.
It's always a generation away. It is not a guarantee. And slugs on Gen X, and the boomers for that matter, for taking it for granted. For acting like because if someone tells you they grew up in Gen X or boomer, and that no one ever approached them and told them that all this crazy stuff that's going on now was coming. The transgender thing is fairly new, but the indoctrination piece, the communism piece, that's mid-50s. Ayn Rand came here in 55, I think it was. She released the Atlas Shrugged in 57, because the one thing she saw when she got here was the same telltale signs of communism trying to take hold in the United States. And since she just ran from that and knew exactly what it looked like, she wrote Atlas Shrugged. And unfortunately, it now looks like a prophecy. Like, now it looks like a prophecy. But it took until the late 60s, right? The hippies were the first. They were the first successes, as Yuri Bezmenov says. Like, Comrade Andropov could not be, he never expected such a success, is what he said. And meanwhile, the hippies are all running around thinking, and what are we doing? Sexualizing kids through television, allowing things like that. There was a day where Elvis wiggling his hips on TV was scandalous. And everyone uses it
Oh my God! Now
As
they have porn rap. It's literally and I say that like you might roll your eyes and say, oh, I sound like such an old person. That is literally the genre of rap. I didn't invent that word. That the guy on Hot 97 in the morning, he calls it porn rap. He's the one that's playing it. Like it literally is porn rap. Like it's just you know me, George. I don't love anything more than rap music, and it's just. Like we've had this argument for years, and I'm finally coming around to your side of it. You know what I mean? I'm like, it's just, oh my God, like it's
the entire music industry was taken out. The entire music industry. That's it. Rube, you muted there for like the last few.
my computer
There you
is
go.
all kinds of acting up. I'm gonna have to shut down, and I don't know. I don't know what's going on. It keeps, I don't know, my work computer.
I'm gonna call you Grimace.
Yeah. Oh, did you hear the Grimace conspiracy theory?
No.
Well, I don't know if you know, all of June was Grimace's
Something I
birthday.
got to research.
No, it's actually kind of funny. All of June was Grimace's birthday, so they had a whole month long promo of Grimace's birthday. They had the Grimace shake. They had all these things, and the whole month that's all McDonald's did was Grimace, 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 Grimace. And remember, this is on the backs of the Target controversy and the Bud Light controversy, right?
Right.
The conspiracy is the reason they ran this whole month of Grimace promos with the Grimace shake, the Grimace birthday, Grimace was texting you on your phone if you had the app, was because this way they didn't have to push the Pride
The
Month.
LGBT.
And they just completely ignored Pride Month. And McDonald's they're the biggest corporation in the country. They just completely ignored it. Go back on their Twitter. There's not a single thing about Pride Month. And they made everybody look over here with Grimace, and they got away scot-free. They didn't get attacked by the conservatives. They didn't get attacked by the liberals. All everybody did was go out and drink this Grimace shake that probably had canola oil in it, for crying out loud. But that's another show.
Yeah. No, that's actually that's good to hear on a couple of fronts. One, that there are still companies who care about making money, right? Because that's not a given anymore, right? We can't
Well,
be
McDonald's doesn't need BlackRock.
Right. That's a great point. Great point. They're going to put out there, and I guess when you break it down, that's what it comes down to. Do you need investment money from the big three like BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard, or can you operate, above that, right? It's almost like a Hollywood actor, like a Kurt Russell, right, or a Mel Gibson, where like you start calling things out for what they are, and you start losing work, but you're so big that you could do your own stuff. You don't need to worry about
Kyrie Irving.
Yeah. Yeah.
But George, I'm gonna bring my computer down, so I'm gonna wrap up.
All right, fair enough, bro.
bring it
Fair
home.
enough. I appreciate you jumping on. I'm going to
You
stay
got
on
it.
for a few just to see what we got left in the comments and then close it out. So,
All right, thank you
I
everybody for
appreciate you jumping
joining.
on.
Thanks for having me on, and I'll get my new computer by next time. And thank you, Nikki, for all you do. She really is one of the. She's not a mom's of liberty, but she could be, because she won just real quick. She won, like I told you, our district was 30% Republican and 70% Democrat. She won the Board of Ed election with a giant mask with a X through the mask. So she won a blue district, a blue town on conservative ideals through a great campaign. So it
That's
can
awesome.
happen. That's my point. It can happen. But
Good
all
job,
right.
Nikki.
See you
Thank
later.
you for all
Let's
you
go
do.
Raiders.
Yeah, jokes. Jokes. Get out of here. If you don't know, I am a Raider fan. They've been the blight of me. They've been doomed me to 40 years of mediocrity. 39 years. They won the Super Bowl for one of those years. But yeah, let me go ahead and check through here. Definitely always appreciate when Ruben comes on, and I do appreciate the comments from you folks. I had this one earlier. I didn't get to it. If you want to confront a Marxist with history, they always say the philosophy was not implemented correctly. Absolutely. Number one answer. That's Family Feud. Number one answer. And at this time it will be, right? And that's the most arrogant thing anybody can think. But I'll get into that in a second. Then you say, it's been tried hundreds of times and it never worked out. and only results in starvation, death, and poverty. Just look at Venezuela. No convincing these Marxists, no critical thinking skills, no knowledge of history. Yeah, and Lyndon, what I would add to that, this is why the children are so important. This is why to the Marxists, the children are so important. And any totalitarian regime, which all of them follow the principles, even Hitler's Nazi Germany, even though they're trying to convince everybody they were right wing, it was literally the National Socialist Party. But they still have changed the narrative to tell everybody it's right wing. And the same thing when you watch that documentary. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. I think it's called The Final Account. And there was a director who went and interviewed the children of Nazi Germany, realizing that they were all old enough now that they were about to die. And once they were gone, there would be no record of, this is the last time you can actually get to talk to them. So he made a documentary. It was fascinating. It was all in German with subtitles, but it was worth the read, really, because one of the scenarios they had was they were talking to one of the guys and talking about his childhood and how the school, like, were teaching him, like, his father would send him to school, and his father hated the Nazi Party. But every time he sent him to school, the Nazi Party would teach him, you need to love us, hate your father. And they asked him, at the time, who did you side with? And he was like, oh, I was all about the party. My father hated it. Right. But it didn't change the kid's mind. Because when you get them young like that, and they don't have historical references, they don't have, they've never worked, they don't understand policy, they don't understand any of it. Those are just minds ripe for pumping all kinds of crazy stuff into their heads. And that's, that's where the problem comes in, right? Nikki showing some love for Ruben. Yeah, Nikki, you're awesome. Everything that Ruben said that makes you an incredible human being. So I'm glad to see we have warriors like you fighting out there, because that's what it takes, right? That's what it takes. That's how these districts are starting to come back. And I have said this before, as much as people don't feel like it, and it doesn't, it may feel like all is lost. People should understand the Marxists have already lost the battle for children. The only way, it doesn't feel like that because the schools are still doing all this crazy stuff and whatever. But I want you to think of it this way. The children that are walking into those schools now, okay, they're going in knowing what they're about to get pumped in. They know now. Their parents are telling them before they get there. Like the parents are engaged now. They know the type of garbage that they're trying to pump under the guise of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? The math is simple, right? Unity is greater than diversity all day long. And parents know this. So unlike before, okay, and this is why I say they can only operate in the shadows, unlike before, where they would try and act like, look, don't tell your parents, you don't need to tell your parents, or worse yet, tell your, here's what your parents are going to tell you. They don't know as much as you do, and here's what they're going to say to you. And then give the kid the truth then in that context. So when the parent hears all this crap that's been pumped into the kid's head, the kid and starts to give him the truth, the kid's looking at the parent like, they told me you were going to say that. And boom, you lost your kid. You lost the mind of your kid. Because they're going to look at you from that moment on. And this is how it's been. This is how it's been all the way up the chain. Okay. Now it started in colleges. So for the 60s, 70s, 80s, even 90s for that matter, it was mostly in universities where they came out. This is where parents were like, what the hell did that college do to my kid? I don't even recognize my kid. I spent $100,000 to send him to college. He comes back hating me. Because that's where they were focusing it. But in the 2000s, it started to trickle down into high schools, then into grammar schools, and now it's as low as the damn preschool level. But that's done now. That's done now. Thanks to 2020 and parents getting a look in the classroom, that's done. There's no more are we in a situation where the kids are going to go in. Now when the kids go in and the teachers start talking about all this stuff that you shouldn't say to your parents and blah, 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 the kid's going to be like, nope, My mom told me I have to tell her everything that goes on in this classroom. This whole shadow crap that they've been operating under forever, it's over for them, folks. It's over. I told you a million times, and at some point you're going to start to realize it on your own. These people don't exist in mass. They just exist in significant positions. And they own the media, and like bots cannot re-educate your children, right? Like internet bots, these people who like, I got 10 million followers. Yeah, 9 million of them are bots. The other million signed on because they thought wow, this person's got 9 million followers. Let me get on. These people don't exist in mass. They don't. And the reality of the matter is this gets shown every single time that, when they tried to boycott Chick-fil-A, Chick-fil-A doubled in business for a week or so. Look back at all the boycotts that the left wanted to do. They don't have one situation where they were able to do something like Bud Light or do something like Target. They don't have one. Both of those companies are still suffering 6 months later. People that walked away from them are never going back. That is power of the purse. The left can't do that because bots don't buy Bud Light. Bots don't buy anything. So what do? They threaten with 1 million bots online. Whatever the marketing director for whatever company they're trying to trigger comes in and goes, man, look at this activity online. This is not good. This could go bad. And then they balk before they even lose a penny. But the reality is, if they just said, like Chick-fil-A said, screw you, boycott, you'll learn that they don't exist. They can't boycott. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all smoke and mirrors. And it's no different with the people trying to indoctrinate your children. The only way they get past this, and the only way they've been able to successfully pull it off, is by not telling you. We all know that it smells like garbage. We all know that. So the question is, what do we do? And at least in the United States, now I was told by some of our Canadian followers that they don't necessarily have the ability to just re-elect the school board or recall the school board, or I don't know what the process is there. So one of them was asking me, why are we not protesting the same way? And I was like, we're just doing it in a more action-based way because we can. Like, we have the option to go and remove these school board people, and that's what we're doing. But if you're that parent who's got some time and you love your kids, as I know you do, get out there. Get out there, especially if you're a firecracker. Get out there and start taking it to these people. Because somebody's got to fight for the kids, folks. Somebody's got to fight for them. Jerry says he searched for it on YouTube, didn't get a notification. Rumble did list it in your feed. Yeah, we can go on all day about the whole YouTube and Rumble. Like I definitely appreciate Rumble more than YouTube. There's not a doubt about it. And I could care less. YouTube bans me every freaking time. I don't know what happened. But Nikki's still with us. Nikki says start local. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's where it's all about. That's where I'm going with the Article 5 piece, folks. If we want to make change, don't wait for legislators to pass term limits, right? They're never going to do that. It's local. State legislatures run that show. You amend the freaking Constitution and you put in term limits. Period. Not only is that powerful, but it takes, number one, the federal government they'll have to sit there and watch us do that. And folks, if there's anyone on here who doesn't understand Article 5, sometimes I start talking about it like everybody knows it in detail. I do realize that a lot of people don't understand it. If someone has a question about Article 5, just throw it in the chat, and I will be glad to stop everything at any time on any Wednesday Night Live and make sure that I cover that with you. So I do have some comments here on Rumble. Voice of America says, "Hey, I'm here," but commenting on he's commenting on Facebook. I think I get some of that. So another one says, "Storm is coming. Be prepared." So, and I can't highlight the chat from Rumble on here because it's Rumble doesn't integrate with anything, so you have to do it like an RMTP feed. But it's local, folks. Just to get back to the point, if you go to your legislatures, everyone should know if there's any task that you have aside from signing the petition to call for the convention of states. Know who your local legislators are. Okay, because that matters. The entire country was designed that they run the show. The entire country was designed that if you have a beef, you don't take it up with your state senator or your your House rep in the Congress or whatever, or the president. That's not how it was designed to be. It's designed to be you go to your local district, whoever's representing you in your local district. The system is designed as such where you go to them, bark at them, they bring your message in. And when it comes to convention of states, they are the sole across the country. State legislatures are the only governing body of a convention of states for proposing amendments to the Constitution. They are it. And the reason why that clause was put in to do an end around the federal government was simple. They did it because, and again, another chalk up to the anti-federalists. We all love the Federalists, but you know what? We got the Bill of Rights because of the anti-federalists, and we got this power because of the anti-federalists. And that's the power to propose amendments without the federal government being involved. Why? Because it was understood that if the federal government was the problem and the reason that we needed the amendments, because the fear of it growing so crazy and growing out of control was so great, George Mason understood very well. He addressed them 2 days before the end of the convention, the Constitutional Convention. 2 days before it ended, he was like, "Are we so naive?" I'm paraphrasing, but he was like, "Are we so naive to think that the federal government will propose?" Because at the time, the clause only had Congress proposing and the states ratifying. But he was like, are we so naive to think that if the federal government grows out of control and starts ignoring the people, that it's going to propose amendments to restrict its own power? And it was voted on it like it was unanimous. There was not one dissent in that conversation because it was obvious. And it's never been used. Partly, not that it's never been needed, it's never been used because in many cases when it got threatened and it started to gain momentum, Congress would just move, or the president would just move, or the federal government would just react and get it done for fear of permanently losing a power. And in the end, this time around, we got 19 states on board already. We need 2/3, which is 34 in total. You can find out where your state is at my website, www.thepatriotthinktank.com. You can also go and sign the petition for your state and you just click that button, put in your address. It'll tell you who your representative is, and it'll go ahead and send a letter on your behalf, letting them know that they're in support. And the topics are term limits. All right. So term limits for all federal officials, not just the elected. So if you're one of those who goes, we have term limits, they're called elections. Nobody elects the deep state. Nobody elects the interns and cronies that are around forever as the politicians turn in and out every few years. So that's in there. Fiscal restraints is in there. So think balanced budget amendment. I'm very hopeful that we could overturn the 16th Amendment. For now, I'll take the balanced budget amendment. But if we could overturn the 16th, that would be fantastic. And then government overreach, amendments addressing government overreach of power and authority, regulatory agencies shutting down things like the state board of, like the federal Department of Education, OSHA, all of these other entities that exist to take care of things that are not outlined in the Constitution and are in direct violation of the 10th Amendment. All of those things go local. All of those things get handled. We don't need a federal organization on work safety. States can handle their own work safety, right? They can handle their own work safety. We're not building missiles here, right? Let the federal government focus on defense of the nation and the borders. And they can't even do that right. It's time to take away these responsibilities. They never belong there in the first place. I want to post this so There is and I have a lot of videos on YouTube as well, or even on Facebook and Rumble. I've mimicked the show on both. You should find a few might be missing from YouTube, but not on Article 5. So I've got some playlists in there as well. But here's one with Article 5 explained. And Convention of States has a ton of like I said, there's that Cause University link where you can absolutely get a slew of videos, but you need to sign the petition first. Sign the petition, show them you're on board, click volunteer, guys, and you'll get a call from somebody local. You'll get a call from somebody like in your district. It's broken down by districts the way it should be, and there are district captains all over the country. It's not like a tiny little movement. The one of the co-founders is Mark Meckler, who founded the Tea Party, the original Tea Party. All right. And then he started Convention of States because when the Tea Party was successful in what it was trying to do, those people that they got elected by primarying the bad people turned into freaking rhinos as well. In months, by his account. He was like, it was months before we didn't even recognize who they were. And at that point is when he realized Convention of States is necessary. The government is structurally broken. Who, no matter how good the person you elect into it, they're going to get eaten by the machine. Like the structural damage needs to be corrected and fixed first. And that's what this does. And not only that, but once this is done, once this convention is called, I said this, and Justice Scalia had commented on this. Hold on, it says, should be worried the American flag was upside down. So I'm not sure I do that a lot, so I don't know what you're referring to specifically, but yeah, you should be worried. The American flag being upside down is a nation in distress. So if folks didn't know that and you see the American flag being flown upside down, that is someone symbolically telling you that we have a nation in distress. That's what that means. But thank you for the question. You should be worried, just not about me. You should be worried about the nation in distress. But just to take it back, I want to finish it off on the Article 5 piece, and then I'm gonna go ahead and enjoy the rest of my evening here in the People's Republic of California, at least the best that I can. But yes, even if we don't get the amendments that I want, even if we don't get maybe they don't repeal the 16th Amendment. I think term limits is a slam dunk. But, maybe the 16th Amendment doesn't get repealed. I would like to see the 17th Amendment under the government overreach get repealed, right? 16th Amendment, folks, by the way, is income taxes. The 17th is where the state legislatures gave up their authority to the federal government to appoint senators. So now, and that's when senators began to be elected directly by the people. So they're no longer accountable to state legislatures. And once they're in, it's 6 years until they're out. Prior, you could go to your local legislator and say, hey, I want this senator. Mitt Romney, perfect example, right? Liz Cheney. They could have been pulled by the state legislatures of their states and would have been. But they couldn't be because the state legislatures, this all happened in 1913. 16th, 17th, and the cherry on the sundae was on Christmas, the day before Christmas Eve. Woodrow Wilson, the worst president in United States history, or at least the most damaging, signed the Fed and the central bank into existence. All of that happened in 1 year. I don't know what the hell went down in 1913, but that all needs to get undone. All of it. And this is the only way to do it. The only way to do it is through constitutional amendment. And people don't realize the problems we're in today are because of years of bad court decisions empowering the government, not years of bad presidents. It was bad court decisions. There's only one way to overturn SCOTUS, and that's through constitutional amendment. The power is still ours. We just need to use it. And as I was saying, once we get this process done, even if all the amendments we all want, don't get put through, the relationship between the federal government and the American people will have been changed forever. Most of the states that are not on board yet, are being frightened by Soros organizations. John Birch Society is sided with the Soros organizations, not formally, but they're all on message for the same purpose, and they're scaring these legislatures. And what's happening is every year or other year, we get a few more state legislators who actually read through and actually read the history on the topic. And this happens all the time. And I can tell you, I have watched dozens of debates on floors in different states. South Carolina was this way, West Virginia was this way, and all these people come up and say, I was against it until I read my way into being for it. And then boom, those states turned over. And that only happens through education. But your local legislatures are a lot easier to turn the opinion than a federal agency. These people, some of our states, some of these representatives only have 3,000 constituents, 10,000 constituents, maybe 50,000 constituents. It's all manageable numbers. You could set an appointment with these people. You can let them know. But that's what needs to happen, folks. That's what needs to happen. And I understand my channel could be a lot bigger if I decided to just spend all day on Soros and Klaus Schwab and all of that. And I do some of that when I think it's relevant. But I certainly could get more clicks, more likes, more. It wouldn't take me 2 years. I got, when I finally came onto Facebook, which was the only one that wasn't shadow banning me at the time. They do now, but whatever. I've earned it. I take it as a badge of honor. But even then, like, as the channel grows, and I could do it faster and faster without focusing all the time on Article 5. But the reality of the matter is, because people don't know what it is, so it's not clickbait. Like, I'm trying to introduce something to you in the way of civics that you've never heard of and didn't understand in almost every case, and it's not clickbait. So what, it's like, oh yeah, what's he talking about? Oh no, I don't know what that is. It's probably nothing, and then you move on. But you should be saying what I said when I first saw it. Like, what is this? What? We can what? We can create amendments we can pass amendments strictly within the states without having to go to the federal government. I don't know how many times I read the Constitution. Never once did that pop out at me as like the saving grace for the United States. But it is. It is. So if you haven't done it yet, take your trip over, patriotthinktank.com. Right on the front page, there's a link to sign the petition. Go in there. It's going to bring it to your state. You put in your address. They'll send a letter to your legislator, your local legislator. And then another technique that is good that Convention of States Action does is that they will handwrite letters. They have handwriting letters parties where, like, everyone sits down and handwrites a letter. Now think about it though, right? If you're a local legislator, or even if you're anywhere, even if you're home, if you load through your mail and you look and you see a handwritten letter, what are the odds of you not reading that handwritten letter? Right? I think it's brilliant. And the legislators have all said the same thing. When they receive those, they absolutely have to read them because somebody sat down and took the time to handwrite a letter to them. And it just showed how passionate that person was that they made them want to read that letter. So I thought that was awesome. But check it out, folks. I'm beyond next Wednesday for sure. Every Wednesday, don't forget to follow. Throw in some comments if you haven't already, no matter what platform you're watching on. Follow, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, I would tell you, there's more company over on Rumble when I go live for sure. But I'm still going to be broadcasting to YouTube. I'm even on Twitch. I think I have like 7 followers on Twitch, which is always fun, but it's easy. So I do it. All right, folks, until next time, I'm out.